Her triumphs. I took a group of women that didn't believe in themselves, and I just believed in them. Her trials.
I never wanted to go to practice. I was losing a ton of weight.
Her story.
I just put my faith in God and just trusted the system.
Her why.
I want people to see what I did and say, oh, that's so awesome. I'm going to be better than that. That would be how I hope that this journey ends.
This is Her Why, where we tell the stories from BYU women's sports. Here is your host, Lauren McLean.
We're so glad you've joined us on Her Why, where we celebrate the women who make BYU sports great. Joining me today is BYU softball star, infielder, and catcher, Hailey Morrow. Thank you so much for being here with me, Hailey.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm super excited to be here.
You're an incredible player, so I'm excited to talk to you. The 2025 season is right around the corner. What are you most excited about as BYU heads into year 2 of the Big 12?
Yeah, so I think it's awesome now that we have some experience under our belt as we are going into our second year of the Big 12. We also have some new additions to the conference. I just think we're super excited to compete and continue to make a name for ourselves as BYU, and we can compete and we can win and we can dominate in the Big 12.
Oh, that's confidence right there. I love that because the Big 12 has some of the best teams in the country. And you mentioned the new additions. You have, I think your team specifically plays Arizona, Arizona State, and Utah.
Right.
Of those three, who are you most excited to play?
I'm super excited to play Utah.
Yeah.
There's something about the in-state competition and the rivalry, and so it'll be awesome.
So you grew up in Las Vegas, and yet do you still feel the rivalry kind of heat that comes from BYU Utah?
Oh,
you've been here long
definitely.
enough, right?
Yeah, especially growing up in Vegas, I'm not too far from Utah. And growing up a BYU fan and committing here at a young age, I feel like I've been a part of the BYU family for a lot longer than just, 3 years now.
Yes.
So yeah, it's personal.
Oh, I love it. You guys are headed to California and Mexico right at the start. What makes you most excited about those road trips?
Yeah, it's awesome. And first off, it's great that we're going to warmer places. Usually when we leave, it's usually snowing here in Provo. And it's also awesome just to start off our season playing high-level competition. Right from Jump Street, we get to play some really good teams. And we went to Mexico my freshman year. So now that I also have some experience going and playing in that place where it's great competition right off the bat, it'll be exciting going there as a junior this year.
You're a junior and one of the leaders. When you watch your team practice, what should we expect to see from this Cougar squad in 2025?
Yeah, so each year is so different, right? Because you have new people coming in, you have transfers, freshmen, and just a different vibe every year. I would describe this year's team as a team that plays with a lot of energy, and we have a lot of fun when we play. Some teams have to have a lot of focus, and they're a little bit more quiet. But I would say this team, we're going to be talking a lot on the field. We're going to communicate with each other because we have a lot of a core group of returners, but we also have a lot of new people. So it's a good mix. So we're always talking. You'll see a lot of smiles. We're going to laugh and joke around because we play better. This team plays better when we're not as stressed and we're relaxed and we can just have fun out there. That's
so awesome. And is that something that starts just with the leaders of the players like you guys, or is that something the coaching staff kind of evaluates and they're like, all right, this squad, we need to be way more vocal, or this squad, we need to be more calm because that's how they stay motivated. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Who's kind of in charge of that?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think the coaches present to us what they expect out of us, but then from there, it's really a player-ran team. So we have leaders on the team that will step up and kind of get that momentum going, and then from there, the whole team's bought in, so everyone kind of just follows along.
Well, and you're one of those. You just seem like you have such a fun personality, so I'm sure your teammates feed off of that. So now you're one of the leaders on the team, like we said. How do you see your new role now compared to when you first arrived at BYU?
Yeah, I mean, it's different being an underclassman versus an upperclassman now as a junior. And I think just what I'm going to try to do this year is just try to be the best teammate I possibly can be, and set a good example and set the bar high. I know what this team can do. We have such great potential, and all we have to do is believe in ourselves. And I've played a year in the Big 12 now, and I know what we need to do to be successful. So we're just going to try to ingrain that into this team this year, and I know that we can be successful if we can do that.
and you earned Big 12 Player of the Week honors last season. And that's a really competitive conference. So that's a big deal to get that award. What did that recognition mean to you?
Oh, that was awesome. I'm super grateful to have received that honor. Honestly, it had never crossed my mind when we were playing that week that I had a chance of receiving that award. I just remember that week as a team, we just had so much fun. And, softball can be a hard sport because it's a game of failure. I just remember that week we were just playing together as a family, as a team, and we were just passing the bat, and I would say hitting is contagious. And so when your team does well, it's super easy to, I got to be like them. I got to show up and be there for my team as well. So I would say that's kind of how it got started, was really my teammates sparking it and just having that competitiveness in me and be like, I got to be there for my team as well. So
hitting is contagious. That's crazy how that works, isn't it?
Yeah, it's so crazy.
How that momentum can carry on to your teammates. You're a staple on this BYU softball team now. You're an upperclassman. You're comfortable with the players and the staff. Enough so that you can prank them. So I got to know, tell me about some of the pranks you've pulled on the players and some of the coaches.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Like I said, our team loves to joke around. We have a ton of fun. One time last year, around this time last year, before we went on break, me and some teammates, I won't throw them under the bus, but we'll keep it a secret. We actually went and got a bunch of wrapping paper, and we went into Coach Eakin's office and wrapped every single item in his office. We wrapped individual pens. We wrapped every book. We even wrapped his clock that's up above his door. And so we were oh, he's going to have no idea when to come out to practice. He's going to be and it was so funny. We wrapped his door too. So immediately when he entered into the room, he just knew something was going on. And that was probably one of our best pranks, because he kept the wrapping paper up for a week after too, because there was just so much he couldn't take it down.
So what was his reaction when he saw that? Because he kind of seemed, from the outside, he seems like a kind of serious guy. So what was his reaction to that?
Yeah, at first, he would mess around and be like, yeah, we have cameras, we know exactly who did it. But I feel like he seriously had no idea who it was. And sometimes he is a pretty serious guy, but when you get to know him, he's super witty and he has a really good sense of humor. And so I could tell he thought it was funny. And obviously we were just doing it to be funny and to spread some Christmas cheer. So it was awesome.
So when did he find out that it was you?
Probably the next day. I'm also really bad at keeping a straight face and keeping secrets, because I just think it's so funny. So I bet he knew it was me pretty quick, but we tried to keep it a secret.
You're like, Coach, did you get your present?
Right?
It. Let's start from the beginning of your softball career. Your mom played collegiate softball at Southern Utah University, so I'm sure she was a big influence on you. But how did you first get into softball?
Yeah, I would say from a very young age, I was put around sports. I was dribbling a ball around the house, I was kicking a ball, I was throwing something. So from a very young age, I was exposed to sports. But I really got exposed to softball because, like you said, my mom played college softball at Southern Utah, and my mom's sister played college softball at Utah State. So it kind of runs in the family. We got the softball gene going. But I just remember I played a lot of sports growing up. I played soccer, I played basketball, volleyball, tennis. But something about softball, with the team atmosphere, having 23, 24 sisters with you on the field, there's just something special about it. And for some people, you kind of have to be there to know how that feels. But I just loved the competitive aspect of softball, and how there's offense and defense, how you have to work together, and it is a game of failure, but that's what makes it so competitive, is you're trying to defy the odds and do something awesome. And that's why I really like softball.
So how did your mom kind of telling you stories of her playing days and your aunt at Utah State influence your love of softball?
Yeah, well, my mom was a great athlete. She pitched, but she also played shortstop. Her main position was a shortstop. And that's what got me into the game. And that's what I played growing up, because my mom was such a good role model for me and a great example. And I just wanted to be like her in every aspect. And so following in her footsteps was really easy, because she paved a super great way for me.
I love that. You're a lefty in all other sports except for softball. That is so intriguing to me. How'd you end up playing right-handed in softball only?
Yeah, I honestly cannot even explain how this happened. So I used to write left-handed, but now I write right-handed because it's just a lot easier. I played basketball for like a majority of like most of my life, and I only shoot with my left hand. I dribble better with my left. I shoot better with my left. In soccer, I like only kick with my left foot. If you were to see me kick with my right, you'd be like, oh yeah, no, she's definitely left-footed. Like you can definitely like tell a difference. And in softball, I used to like slap and hit left-handed, but as I started playing, I just had found that I had better power from the right side and had more success. I could just see the ball better from that side. So I can't even really tell you how it happened. No one in my family is left-handed, but it just comes naturally to me. Most things come better from the left side. So
what?
But
were you born left or right-handed? I mean, like
I wrote with my left hand from the start.
Okay.
But right when I started school, I kind of switched and started writing with my right hand. So I can still write with both.
Oh my gosh.
Which is crazy.
That's so cool. That probably contributes to you being such an amazing athlete too. You can kind of go either way.
Yeah, I feel like it definitely has helped me. And like, you know, in softball, you can like do forehand or backhand or you're moving both directions. Like, and I feel like I have pretty good hand-eye coordination because I'm ambidextric in like multiple things. So
at what point did you switch from doing kind of the left-hand slap to right hand? Was that like in high school or when was that?
I started playing softball when I was like 10. So I would say in between that 10 and 11 range is when I, pretty early on. Because I had discovered that I could hit the ball a lot further from my right side.
So when did you realize softball was something you wanted to pursue seriously? Because you played all these other sports that you mentioned, basketball, tennis, volleyball. When did you realize softball was something that you wanted to take to the next level?
Yeah. Like you said, like I loved basketball. I honestly had thought growing up, like that's what I was going to do. And like I had like coaches from other colleges like talking to me about going to play basketball. But I had just had grown this love for softball. I love being outside. So obviously softball is an outdoor sport and it's awesome to like, if you go out to Miller Park, like it is the best view you have ever seen. Like you get the mountains, you have the trees out in center field and like the sun. And when there's like snow on the mountain and it's like glistening, it's awesome. Like you can't beat it. I really just feel like it came down to like the team atmosphere of softball and how you have to like overcome adversity. I feel like softball has like taught me a lot of life lessons. And so just like getting like full circle moment, like looking at softball, I feel like it's what like has stood out to me from like a very young age.
So now that you're a junior, because this has been done before, is basketball, even just walking onto the team, something you've ever thought about doing?
It has crossed my mind.
Okay.
Yeah, it definitely has. And like, I love basketball. Like I still shoot and mess around. And so it has crossed my mind, but we'll have to see.
To be determined, let's say.
Yeah.
You have 3 siblings. Are they pretty athletic too?
Yeah, we are a very competitive family. We cannot do anything without someone like starting to talk trash or like, it's just awesome. But I have a brother who is currently serving a mission for the church in Nagoya, Japan. And he is a really, really good baseball player. And so when he gets off his mission, he's hoping to either come play baseball here at BYU or go play baseball at UVU. But he also played basketball and tennis growing up as well. And then I have a sister who is a junior in high school, and she has Down syndrome. Her name's London, and she's a really good volleyball player.
Wow.
She got a spike one time in her game, and it was like the highlight of like her career, and it was awesome. And then I have another sister who's a freshman in high school, and she plays volleyball, and she's a stud. She's taller than me as a freshman in high school.
Wow.
And so I cannot wait to see all the great things she does with volleyball. She has a lot of potential, and she's really good.
And I want to talk about London a little bit more a little bit later, but your bio says you hold the heavyweight ping pong title in your house. Who would you say is the most competitive one? Because it sounds like your mom and dad probably fall in that category as well. Who's the most competitive person in your family?
Just because me and my brother are so close in age, we're only 2 years apart, he would be so mad if he heard that we just talked about this because he would probably say that he's like the best. but I'm not going to let him say that. So obviously I hold the title, especially right now while he's out of the country. So
for sure.
that belt is mine right now. But I would also say both of my parents are super competitive too. We play a lot of pickleball. That's one thing that my family loves to do. And me and my brother, we would always hit like really short shots right over the net to make my dad like sprint to the net. And he's like pulling his hamstring like, oh my gosh. And we are just super competitive. And I think that's what has made me and my siblings really fall in love with sports and the competitive aspect is because from a really young age, we've always just been competitive in everything we do. Even if it's not sports, we're pretty competitive people.
It's been a huge part of your family. And speaking of, you committed to BYU at just 12 years old. That is so young. So let's dive into that a little bit. I can't imagine making that big of a decision when I'm 12. What do you remember about that time?
Yeah, so I remember at that point I had decided, I want to play college softball. And I also knew BYU is my dream school. And when I have like a goal or something that I want to accomplish, like I will work so hard and I will want to do anything that I can possibly do to get there. And I remember I was playing on an older team. And at that time, those girls were trying to get recruited. So in softball, you would like send emails, you would go to college camps, and that's like the catalyst. That's like how it starts. So I would email Coach Eakin every single week. He was probably so sick of my emails. He's like, oh my goodness, this girl emails me so much. But like I wanted to come here so bad. Like I could just like picture myself, being an athlete here at BYU. And so that's what I did. I sent lots of emails. I came to camps from a really young age, starting probably at like 10. And one club summer, I was at a tournament and Coach Eakin had talked to my club coach and said, hey, like I want to talk to Hailey. And so I got back home. I was with my family. We made a phone call and I was made an offer. And without hesitation, that was my first offer and my only offer because I knew that BYU was the place that I wanted to be. And so even though I was 12 and I now looking back at it, probably like didn't even really know much about what I was getting myself into or what even like college was or what I wanted to do, all that stuff. I just knew that, out of any university in the world, I could take a chance on BYU because BYU has just so much more to offer than just softball. And I'm super grateful for Coach Eakin and for the coaches for taking a chance on a 12-year-old.
Yeah.
And now being here, BYU has been everything I had hoped and dreamed of and more. So.
What made you so confident as a 12-year-old girl that BYU was the place for you, where you would email the head coach multiple times? Like, what made you so confident in that decision?
First off, with softball, BYU softball program has a history of being so successful. And the coaching staff is, like, the best. Like, I can't imagine, like, playing for any other coaches in the world because they care for you as people and as players, and, like, they're always rooting for you. And that's something that's so important as an athlete is like having coaches that believe in you because that's where everything starts is you got to believe in yourself. And then I would also say with BYU, the academics stands out. I just know that like when I graduate from BYU, like there's a program called Built for Life. I know that I will be built for life here after I graduate because like they just have so many resources available to build connections and like have a good network. So obviously that helped as well. And then the religious aspect is super important to me as well. Like I'm a member of the church. And so being at a university that can create a balanced lifestyle, I feel like was super important to me because I knew I could get a mixture of all three, not just like one, if that makes sense.
It does make sense. So you had 6 years from when you committed to when you actually came to BYU. Was there ever a moment of doubt in those 6 years like, ooh, do I want to look other places to play? Or were you just full steam ahead for BYU?
I was set on BYU. Ever since I had verbally committed when I was 12, I just had like this vision of me like playing like my freshman year in a BYU uniform. That's all I thought about every day. And I feel like for some, like it obviously was hard waiting 6 years because I was just so excited to get here. But at the same time, I was able to use that as like a motivator, like in everything I did, whether it was school, whether it was like being a good like sibling to my like brother and sisters, or like getting better with my softball skill set. Like I just used like, oh man, I want to start at BYU my first year so bad. And I had 6 years to to try to make that dream like a reality, you know? And so I think that's what really like helped me get here.
We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we'll have more from BYU softball's Hailey Morrow. This is Her Why. Hey, Cougar fans, this is Lauren McLean. We have some amazing shows here at BYU Radio, including the Big Stories podcast, where host Cleon Walsh shares real-life stories from the Big 12 and beyond. Last season, Cleon brought you stories about walk-on TCU point guard Darius Ford, who went from homeless to college hoopster. And Kansas play-by-play announcer Brian Haney shared how he organized a basketball tournament to raise money for kids with cancer. This season, the podcast traveled to Tucson, Waco, Houston, Orlando, and other cities to bring you more amazing and inspiring tales. So check out Big Stories wherever you find podcasts or on the BYU Radio app. Welcome back to Her Why. I'm Lauren McLean. I'm here with BYU softball infielder and catcher Hailey Morrow. Let's talk about your sister a little bit that you mentioned. You posted on Instagram about your little sister who has Down syndrome, and London's her name, right?
Right, yeah.
Saying that she's your biggest fan. Does she watch all of your games?
Yes. London is my biggest fan. She is at almost every home game, and they sit in the same spot every time, and she cheers so loud. When I'm in the batter's box, if I'm out at shortstop, if I'm behind the plate, I can just hear London cheering for me so loud. And I would contribute that to a lot of the success that I've had is that I just have like a really good support system behind me. And I know like my family will always be there for me. And like London is definitely like my biggest fan. Like I play for her because she has a disability that, you know, prevents her from being able to play sports like I had been able to do. And it makes me so sad because like she is a really good athlete, but because of her disability, she's not able to like play on the field, you know? But that's why sports are really important to me, is because I'm able to play for something like bigger than myself. Yeah. And I play for her, and she's my biggest fan. And from day one, like I know that she will always be there for me. And giving her a big hug after the game is just like the best thing like I could ever wish for.
Does she ever give you any advice after the games?
Oh, yeah. She tells me that I have to hit a home run almost every game. And it's so funny. And sometimes, like, if we lose, I'll get a text from her later that night, and it'll be like, Hailey, I love you so much. It does not matter if you win or lose. And it is just, like, the sweetest message ever. And she'll text me. We FaceTime or text every single day. And she'll always try to give me advice, like, Hailey, hit the ball harder, or it needs to go further than that. And it's just so awesome. We have such a good relationship, and she's my biggest fan, and we're like best friends. So
I love that. She keeps you down to earth.
Yep, for sure.
Let's jump into your time here at BYU. 2 years ago, you made a big transition to catcher. What was your initial reaction when Coach Eakin asked you to switch positions from shortstop to catcher when you'd never played catcher before, right?
Right. Yeah. So I remember coming in to the fall as a freshman, I was recruited as a shortstop. I was going to be playing second base. So I was going to be playing infield. Then we go home for Christmas break and we come back. And I was driving from Vegas back here to Provo. And I had gotten a call from Coach Eakin. And I was like, hey, like when you get back to Provo, we like need to meet with you. And I was like, okay, actually, I'm like pretty close. I'm like 30 minutes away. Yeah. And so in my mind, I'm like thinking about all the things I could have possibly done wrong. And I'm like, oh no, like I'm a freshman, like I'm new. I don't really know what to expect.
This was before you wrapped his office, so you didn't need to worry about that.
Yeah. Thank goodness. So I told him, I was like, yeah, I'm 30 minutes away. He's like, perfect. Can you meet us at the IPF? And I'm like, yeah, I can do that. And I was nervous, but I show up and all the coaches are there. And basically what they first told me was, they're like, so we've had a lot of like injuries with the catchers that we've had. And like, at that point, the portal was closed. So we had no, like, we were limited with our options. And basically the first thing he said was, like we had a catcher, she had back surgery, and we are going to take your infielder's glove away and we're going to convert you to a catcher. And I kid you not, I thought they were joking. I started laughing. I was like, oh, like, that's so funny. Like, good one. Like, because like I am a little bit of a prankster. I like to have fun and tease them a little bit. And so I thought this was like a joke, like payback or something. And then I was like, all right, like, why aren't they saying anything else? Realized that they were actually serious. And like, I don't know, my jaw was probably on the floor. Seriously, I had no words because catching is a position, well, one, I had never, ever caught in my entire life. I was a shortstop from day one. So, and as a freshman, as a freshman, there's already a lot of like new things that you have to face. But playing a brand new position at a high level was super scary, and I was super nervous. And also our first game was like 25 days away. So basically, they had said I have 25 days to learn how to catch, which was super scary for me.
Wow. Okay, so for those who don't know softball very well, how would you compare? You were kind of mentioning you were kind of comparing to football, but how would you compare catcher switching from infielder to catcher to like another sport?
Yeah, so basically, like the best way I can think of is like if you look at a football team, like let's say like you take a linebacker or someone on defense, and 25 days before the first game, the coach comes up to you and they're like, all right, you're going to be the starting quarterback for this next game. And you're like, wait, like I don't do that. That's not my specialty, because you truly are on the other side of the ball. As a shortstop, like the ball's being hit to you, like you're facing the stands. Now, as a catcher, you're the last line of defense. You are now on the complete opposite side of the ball. You're facing your teammates. Your back is to the stands, and it's seriously like completely switched. And I go from running around to now squatting for a 3-hour game. So it was a big adjustment for me for sure.
Was the transition difficult, or did it come pretty natural to you once you started in the training?
So at first it was super hard. My body had to adjust. My knees had never gone through that type of like training before. So that was really hard. Physically was super hard. Mentally, it's also super tough because you're learning a new position and there's a lot of things being thrown at you. But I think what helped the most is like I just had teammates and coaches that were super, super supportive, and they were patient. Like obviously, I can imagine like the pitchers on our team being like, wow, I'm about to throw to somebody who has never caught a day in her life. But I am so grateful for their patience and for like their help, and they had confidence in me. And I think that's what helps the most is like, because at times, like obviously I did not have confidence in myself. Like I knew like, oh man, I'm struggling. But my teammates and coaches just kept building me up. And I think that's what really helped me the most. And I remember one time Coach Eakin gave me some advice where I was having a hard time making like throws to second base, like on a steal. And he basically told me like, don't catch like a catcher. I want you to catch like a shortstop. And I was like, at first I was like, what is he talking about? But it makes sense because if softball is what got me here, I mean, if playing shortstop is what got me here with my natural ability, then obviously there's something there. Yeah. So why can't I take what I learned from being a shortstop with having a quick transition, being quick, staying athletic, having like a good arm slot when I throw? Why can't I transition those over to being a catcher? So although like my form as a catcher might not have been perfect, I feel like with the help from my teammates and coaches, like we were able to make it work, and it ended up being awesome. And I have totally loved catching.
So something clicked for you once he said that, like throw like a shortstop, don't throw like a catcher. And you're like, oh my gosh, I can do this.
Yeah. I didn't have to think as much, and I kind of just let my natural abilities take over.
The catcher-pitcher relationship is crucial, right? That chemistry. And you mentioned how supportive they were. But how did you develop that chemistry and really quick before the beginning of the season?
Yeah, because we kind of had to jump straight into it. But I just remember, so the first game I ever caught, also my first ever college game, was in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. We were playing Wisconsin. It was our second game of the season. And that game, Kason Korth, who's one of our pitchers, who also happens to be one of my roommates, and we were both freshmen at the time. We both had gotten the start for that game. So not only was it both of our first ever college games, I was playing a position I had never played before. I think heading into that game, that brought me comfort knowing that Kason was going to be on the mound because I'm already able to trust her, and we already had a pretty good relationship. I remember we struck out a batter in the first inning, and it was for the third out. I remember just throwing up the ball and like celebrating, and like me and her like did the best chest bump ever. And I knew in that moment, like, we can do this, you know? And I feel like when it comes down to the relationship between a catcher and a pitcher, it really comes down to like trust. And like, if I was a pitcher, I would want my catcher to just have so much trust in me. And as a pitcher, I'd want to be able to throw any pitch and know that it's not going to get by the catcher. So that's kind of the mindset I tried to have going in as a catcher, is like, man, I am just going to have the most energy and support for my pitcher, no matter who it is. Like, because being a pitcher is so hard. That is probably one of the most mentally and physically tough positions on the field. And like, they don't often get a lot of the credit. That is a tough position. And like, they need all the extra support and build up and confidence and energy as they possibly can. So like, besides like myself trying to play as best as I could, I was just trying to give all my energy to the pitchers and try to help them in any way that I can.
So now that you've played both positions, which is more satisfying, throwing out a runner as a catcher or making a big play at shortstop?
Oh my gosh. I will say the first ever runner I threw out in college was like equivalent to like hitting a home run, I will say. But oh my gosh, that's a tough question. But like, I remember like making a diving play at shortstop, and like the best part about all like making a good play isn't even like making the play. It's just like celebrating with your teammates and like going back and like watching film and like seeing your teammates like jump up and get excited, and like that's the best part. That's so cool. The celebration. Yeah.
Okay, so now you've had 2 years as catcher and you're transitioning back to shortstop for the 2025 season. What's that like mentally for you?
Yeah, well, I mean, I have played shortstop my whole life before coming to BYU. So obviously, like, I'm super comfortable in that position. I love shortstop. I also have loved catching the past 2 years. I feel like catching has really opened my eyes. I feel like I have a greater understanding and knowledge of the game because now I've played both sides of the ball. I know as a shortstop what I would want out of a catcher. And as a catcher, I know like I need to give my shortstop a good throw. So I feel like it has strengthened my knowledge of the game a lot. But no matter what, like I just want to do what's best for the team. So whatever the team needs, I will be willing to do. So if that's me behind the plate, if that's me at shortstop, if it's me like hitting, like I will do whatever it takes because I just want us to, as a team, to win and find success.
Your cousins, Harrison and Madeline Taggart, are also BYU athletes. Harrison plays football. Madeline runs track. What's it like sharing the BYU athletic experience with family?
Oh, it's awesome. Like, it is amazing. Harrison and Maddie, we grew up together. Like we're cousins. We did family reunions together. We would go to Lagoon together, and never in a million years did we think that we would all be playing a college sport at the same university. And actually, one of my younger cousins, her name's Kylie Butters, she actually just verbally committed to play volleyball here at BYU.
Wow, so you guys are going to be all over the place.
Yeah, we won't be here at the same time, but she'll have to continue the legacy for us after me and Harrison graduate. So it's awesome.
So much fun.
Yeah.
You're also the Student Athlete Advisory Committee President. Wow. On top of everything else you're doing. How did you get that gig?
So I love SAC. I was a part of SAC my sophomore year as a secretary, and I just love being involved with things. Like, I feel like it helps me build better relationships with people, know more of the athletes here on campus, and just learn a lot. And I remember the president last year had graduated, and they were looking for a new president, and they had asked if I was interested, and I was like, you know what? This could be an awesome experience for me. And so I applied and was fortunate enough to get that call that I was going to be the president, and it's been awesome. It has been the greatest experience for me, and like pretty much our main goals as a SAC is like to just create like an exceptional athletic program by like building unity within all the athletes and serving. We really focus a lot on like service. I think that's one of the best ways. If you can get all the athletes together to serve, that is a powerful thing to do. And that's like the most amazing thing I've ever been a part of. And then also like just planning events and activities that provide athletes with opportunities that they might not otherwise have if it wasn't for SAC. To remind them that like they're more than an athlete.
Yeah.
You know.
You're also part of the Big 12 Beyond Borders program. You traveled to D.C. for that. What was that experience like?
Yeah, that was an amazing experience. So basically, we had a male and female rep from every Big 12 school, and we all met, and we flew to D.C. this summer, and we had an awesome experience to learn about like how our country is ran, and just get a little glimpse of like some behind the scenes stuff that goes on on Capitol Hill. And we were able to meet with congressmen and women, and we actually met with the Utah representative, which was awesome. And we like got into groups and we presented ideas that, you know, as athletes, we wanted to see a change in. And so it was a super cool experience for me, and also to be able to meet athletes from other Big 12 schools.
So amazing. Your journey has been filled with milestones and challenges thus far in your BYU career. If you could sum up your why in one sentence, what would it be?
I would say that my why would have to be, you know, I'm here at BYU. I'm here playing softball because I want to play for something bigger than myself. And like I want to play for like my sister and for the people who don't have the opportunities to.
I think that's so powerful. I'm here with Hailey Morrow, star catcher and shortstop on the BYU softball team. Hailey, you were incredible. Can't wait to see what you do this season. Thank you so much for taking the time with me.
Yeah, thank you. It's been awesome.
Thanks to Annie Robinson and Sydney Simpson for producing this episode with senior producer Cleon Wall. Her Why is a production of BYU Radio.